Hi, and welcome to the Insiders by Durham Lane, where we get perspectives from industry thought leaders about strategies that are unifying marketing and sales cycles to help accelerate growth inside your world.
Welcome to the Insiders Sales and Marketing Podcast. I'm Simon Hazeldine. I'm a sales transformation strategist and sales performance consultant, helping my clients to get more sales more often with more margin. I'm also a keynote speaker and author of 7 books on sales and negotiation. And I'm your host, along with my co-host, the one and only Richard Lane, who is the co-founder of Durham Lane, who are an inside sales partner that helps businesses to grow their revenue through an integrated sales and marketing methodology. So Richard, great to be back with you, and also great to have our guest with us. So I'm going to hand over to you to do the introductions.
Yes, thank you, Simon. And I agree, wonderful to be back. Thrilled to introduce our guest, Sascha Rahman, Head of Strategic Marketing and Sales Excellence at IFM Group. I know from our pre-call, we're going to have a really fascinating conversation today, and I'll hand back to you, Simon, to get us kicked off.
Wonderful. Thank you, Richard. So Sascha, what we always ask our guests to do is just sort of introduce yourself to our listeners. Give us a little bit of background and how you came to be in the role you're in currently so they can kind of get to know you a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Simon, Richard. I'm happy to join you guys both. I think it was around 4 years ago I was offered the exciting opportunity to join IFM and build some new capabilities in a global function related to strategic marketing and sales excellence. We're a kind of international interface function in the holy trinity of the IFM go-to-market, so product management, marketing, and sales. Those are our sparring partners. We have the classical tasks in strategic marketing related to market intelligence, customer intelligence. On the sales excellence side, we look at sales and data analytics and try to integrate some newish data science concepts, and also talk a little bit about pricing and implementing some tools and processes there. Before joining IFM, I was in my last function director in the management consultancy Simon Kutscher & Partners, focusing on top-line topics. My client base was in machinery, electronics, paper packaging, so always pretty much in the B2B space, so to say.
Fantastic. So keeping you busy by the sounds of things. So I'd be very interested. Business development is always a hot topic for anybody on our podcast audience listening into us. So I'd be really interested from an IFM perspective, how do you approach business development as an organization?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. We're privately owned. That means we have a little bit of a longer breath when it comes to a mission and a vision. And since 50 years, we had the mantra, successful and safe growth. And we operationalize those two keywords, success, meaning we hone in on our bread and butter industries that we are really successful and have a strong fit over the years, food and beverage, automotive, machine tools to be named. And we also want to tackle new and, let's say, future growth industries for us around e-mobility, around water and wastewater, the warehouse industry, so that we have a nice balance in our industry portfolio there. And safety, that for us is all about customer base, right? Maybe not to be too reliant on too few customers, to grow the customer base, offer them our complete solution space in position sensors, process sensors, network and control, and software. So increasing a little bit the cross-selling aspects. I think we're a little bit of a different animal than the kind of classical hidden champion in the mid-sized B2B area, which has a, let's say, classical T shape, right? T on the side that they are globally active, but in a very niche segment. You can rather compare us with kind of a millipede, right? With 1,000 different legs to achieve that stability a little bit more.
And so the millipede, which I love, what a wonderful, wonderful concept. That's definitely a first, Sascha. So I strongly recommend you copyright that or whatever as soon as you possibly can. And that's helping you to reduce that reliance. Often happens organizations, we become very reliant on, the old Pareto 80-20 principle, a small number of customers delivering most of the revenue. So you're actively attempting to kind of disrupt that typical percentage then, by the sounds of things.
Yeah, it's a tough job, of course. On the one hand, we want to balance where we're coming from and still tap into that bread and butter business, but continuously pushing also our sales colleague, our sales team to look at these newer areas. It's in that sense, of course, not easy to tackle new challenges in maybe newer industries and fight to a better fit, but that's definitely something that we're aiming for. And if I look at, again, this kind of trio, product management, sales, and marketing, in those instances where all of us three entities have really worked closely together, then that has always been a kind of formula for success for also tackling new areas.
And Richard, from your perspective at Durham Lane, this getting the right balance with a sales team around, servicing customers where you've got a strong proposition and you understand them, and forging into new territories. What's your thoughts and your perspective on that?
Yeah, it's interesting, Simon. I think Sascha's described really eloquently the ability to grow within your base, but also the need for new. I think salespeople often go where they find the easiest revenue. So I think the trilogy between product management, marketing, and sales has to be successful if you're going to successfully cross and upsell into your account base. Where customers typically come to Durham Lane is when they want to accelerate into the net new. That is a different skill. It's a different sales process typically, in terms of you're having to forge into a new market. You're going to have to create noise and awareness in a space where maybe you don't have the brand recognition or reputation or base usually. So that's where we typically get involved, Simon. But I would love to explore more with Sascha how you're able to sort of tie those three pieces of the triangle together to create that success. Sounds fascinating.
Yeah, give us your perspective on that, Sascha. Your insight into those. You've got the product, the marketing, the sales, and you talk about getting those connected and working together. How's that? How you go about achieving that? Because that's quite a challenge for most organizations.
Yeah, I think what definitely helps is putting at the end of the day, if you visualize that triangle, one thing in the center of it, then that's the customer, right? What I do have to say, also from my experience from other companies, entities working in our area in the product management, they are really close contact, working quite in depth with accounts, and we have this kind of outside-in perspective when also developing new products, really looking into the customer needs quite in detail. And there's not, let's say, a lot of interference points when it comes to that, but really close contact, one-to-one, customer to product management, and ideally also to marketing to achieve that kind of customer focus.
Fantastic, thank you. And to loop back to something you mentioned earlier, you were referencing your complete solution. So as an organization, how are you addressing this transition, which a lot of organizations face, what we might call component selling? I think you described it as in our pre-conversation, to a system/solution selling approach.
Yeah, I think our strong bench that we have in our sales team, right? The function at IFM, they're called sales engineers. We've also a little bit of focus on kind of the second part. So we do have the strong advantage of 50 years in-depth application knowledge on the shop floor of our customers. In-depth knowledge together with the maintenance management team of our customers on what works and what does not work. So that's a good foundation, definitely. And to evolve a little bit, also our sales team, I think we're really working also on the skill set. So being able to multi-channel when you are a sales function. So not only being over-relying on the on-site presence, but being able to engage online or on the phone in a good and promising manner. And working on your discovery skills, so really listening to the customer and being able to finely attune and tailor your recommendations coming of that. And finally, it's also a bit of a sales organization challenge, right? That you have to think about a good team composition, maybe of generalists in your team, but for certain special tasks to really being able to put a specialist on a project, be it an industry specialist in food and beverage or automotive, or being it a technology specialist in the camera technology that we are offering, to really provide some in-depth expertise for our customers.
So that's kind of like selling as a team sport rather than an individual sport, perhaps, which is a whole skill set in itself, I think, for salespeople who are, if I could be a little bit generalist for a moment, are more like the lone warrior maybe than the team player. Is that a perspective you're seeing as well, Richard, from Durham Lane? This need for this team, more of a broad team approach?
Yeah, it is. It is, Simon, and I wonder whether that lone wolf analogy is sort of quickly becoming dated. I think that still does exist, but I can't see how you could really be truly successful these days by trying to do everything yourself. I think as Sascha has already explained, you have to have different, not just individuals, but functions of a business working together to create the right success and the right outcomes for your business. So yeah, we still see that, but and certainly with some of our clients, we see that is we have a number of people that don't seem to want to engage with anyone else, but are very good when they get in a certain place. But I think that's becoming a little bit two-dimensional in today's 3D world.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's, bringing in your subject matter expert sometimes at a very early stage of the process, might be earlier now than we might have thought about traditionally, right?
Well, and maybe one thing to think there is how technology has facilitated that process, because rather than having to get someone on a plane to go to a customer meeting, you can just dial them in, and now it's normal, and it's not seen to be a sub experience or an inferior sense of time, is it?
Yeah, I mean, certainly I would say with my clients, they've certainly reported over the last 2 years or so, accelerated something that was already happening anyway with COVID. Was it's just easier to get those stakeholders and multiple people onto a virtual meeting, and providing your sales team have the skills to manage those virtual meetings, that's a fantastic opportunity for you. So yeah, it's a good thing, I think, for people to be focusing on. Sascha, you'll be very familiar. The research has been around a while. The CEB research that I think it was some years ago now, B2B buyers like 57% of the way through their way to a buying decision before they want to engage with sales. So what are you doing to help your customers to learn and engage with IFM at an earlier stage?
I love CEB, to be honest, Simon. I find it super inspiring research. One additional point which was mentioned there, right, is that this kind of problem set that with more information, customers actually feel much more uncertain and stressed out. So it's a fallacy to think that they're at ease with their purchase decision. And I also found it interesting that in B2B, the number of stakeholders involved continuously is going up, right? On average, we now have, I think roughly it was 7 or 8 stakeholders involved in these kind of purchase decisions. And if I just make a kind of analogy in my private life, and you probably can all relate to that. If I go traveling, so to say, on a private trip, and in the past I would have rifled through a catalog, right, and been able to select a hotel quick and easy. Now, when I went to the Algarve with my family during Easter, I had the feeling I looked up every single hotel online before I had a good, strong feeling of making the right decision, right? So that's definitely kind of a mind bender. But what does that mean for our customers at IFM? I think we need to kind of manage their risk of regret, right, and loss of purchase ease, and support them a little bit. And for us, that would mean to go a little bit away from a kind of responsive approach to more of a prescriptive approach, rather than offering them a complete array of the complete options available, maybe listening to them more closely through discovery, and offer them a little bit more tailor-made bespoke solutions coming through the full breadth of our portfolio. And how would we operationalize that? I think online, you mentioned, we work heavily with our Learn More pages online, where you can really educate yourself properly and come to a first good idea there. And kind of offline in the sales approach, it's quite important, I think, to just speak their language, right? To know that in food and beverage, one of the key issues at the moment is end product quality that puts a strain on production processes, or be it in warehouse automation, where we're completely moving away from rigid conveying to AGVs and autonomous mobile robots doing that job, completely flexible, and all of the challenges in the process steps there. And I think when we can tap into that knowledge and then offer a bit more of a tailor-made solution, that's the first right step in a good direction there.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that sort of almost kind of my interpretation is you're guiding the customer in a certain direction, because I think your perspective on that CEB research, it almost sees, okay, they're 57% of the way through, and yeah, they're doing a great job and they're really happy. Actually, they can be pretty stressed, overwhelmed, confused, or misinformed, or perhaps think they know actually more than they do, right? That can, a false sense of confidence. Richard, is that something you're experiencing in interactions with your folks?
Absolutely. I again, from a personal point of view, I think back to Sascha's thoughts about the hotel. I often think, why can't there just be 3 options to choose from? So back to the psychology of buying. So I mean, we've talked before, Simon, about being the sense makers and the storytellers, and I think at that discovery stage we have a responsibility, and that's where most of my team spend their time is what we call find and create, and then define and understand as part of our selling at a high level methodology. And that discovery phase that Sascha's mentioned a couple of times is so important. And our job is to listen, our job is to learn, our job is to offer advice and tell stories of previous experiences which we think might help, and to make sense of some of the challenges that our potential customers have. And I think it was Brian Tracy said that we offer free consultancy to qualified prospects. And that's sort of, I love that idea, because, our job really, as even if it's the very front end of the sales process, if we can be thinking as a consultant, if we can be thinking as a strategic resource, then the worst that we can do is be helpful. So, I think that's a really good way to think of your practice as being, my job is can I be a strategic resource from day one? No, but can I think like one from day one? Yes. And, I think worst case then is you're going to add a bit of value. Yeah,
which is never going to be a bad thing to do for a customer. I know from my research when I was looking at applying neuroscience to sales, is like confused brains don't buy, right? If you're confused, you hit the pause button. And Richard, you mentioned 3, and my good friend Graham Jones is an internet psychologist. Apparently 3 is the optimum options to help people make a decision. So, 1 is no choice, 2 is a binary, and 3 apparently is the optimum. So how about that for our listeners? There you go. There's a bit of added value, we hope. So Sascha, when we were talking previously, and I've taken a look at your website and looked around, you talk about being customer focused and IFM close to you. Now, lots of organizations will say they're close to their customers. Everybody's got it on their office wall or on their website, and we're close to our customers, or customer focus, right? How do you make that an actual reality? Because I know you're doing some really great stuff from our pre-conversation.
Yeah, we gave that question even back to our customers, to be honest. So the ones we've been engaged for quite some while, and asked them even that question: how would you define the close to you-ness of IFM? And what we just got back there was topics like the responsiveness and the agility of working of our sales engineers direct. So going maybe the extra mile in installation and commissioning, being there quite long on site, even off business hours, etc., to really go into that partnership with our customers together. Responsiveness also of our service center. We bench them in, let's say, number of minutes in terms of responsiveness. That's minutes and not hours or days, basically as a benchmark. And what they also mentioned as a kind of hard fact, and that's pretty much industry benchmark, is our 5-year warranty on our products, where the norm would be 1 or 2 years, where we absolutely offer, in case of breakdown, etc., the full support. And I do know from experience, even in product areas where it's tough, and if we're very honest, like for like, our peers in our industry are offering similar products, we were able to kick them out or attack market shares just based on those softer facts all around close to you. So it seemed to be a kind of tangible value at the end of the day.
But I think it's a theme that we've had a number of times from guests on the Insiders podcast is ask the customer, right? Rather than mind reading the customer, what do we think the customer wants? It is sometimes as profoundly simple as saying, what do we need to do to be close to you? What is your definition? As I think is, to paraphrase what you were saying, and then finding out what actually it is that they want, rather than what we might believe they want, or be, and make an assumption about it.
Yep.
So
I think so. Absolutely, the typical, let's say, purchase decision criteria set that we kind of experienced was third product, third sales skills up front, third service skills. So it's never only about the hard technical facts in B2B. It's really about a kind of nose factor and capability to really solve and address additional problems which come up during the purchasing process.
And I must ask specifically, how many minutes was the response time from the customers? What was what was the minutes?
4,800. I mean, that's a whole podcast in itself, isn't it? Because it's, for me, it's so obvious. Someone is getting in touch because they've got a problem. It's front of mind. They need support. They don't need it in 3 hours' time. They need it now. So if you can get that response to, 15 minutes or under, then you will stand out from the crowd. That's a great example of close to you. That's a really, really great example.
I think also as well, Sascha, you're like us. You're in the B2B space, but all of our customers are business to consumer people in their private lives, and they are used to, being able to get an answer really quickly from chat, or to find what they want very, very quickly. And also Amazon, etc. You never wonder where your order is. You're always and rapidly updated about what's going on. And that definitely is influencing their perceptions about what they want from their B2B suppliers as well. And, speed is the need, right? It sounds an awfully trite expression, but like Richard's saying, I have a problem now. If I can find somebody who can solve that problem now, you've probably got first mover advantage against your competition as well.
And that's, let's say, one of the core philosophy aspects from us, that we do want to try to cover the value chain in its entirety, right? So from R&D to production to logistics to sales and service, that's all on a string, homegrown IFM, so to say. And through that kind of capability, of course, that leads us to be able to upfront in front of the customer, then also to respond fast, and also to tackle certain challenges directly in-house.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's just great to get an insight from somebody who's actually walking the talk, I think, rather than just, something that's laminated on the wall of the office, which is, or on the front page of the website. We respond quickly. 4 hours later, somebody comes back to you, right? It's just...
But also what's great about that is that you're responding to your customers, but not just to your prospects that you would like to be your customers. And there's often in B2B a lot of emphasis put on speed of response to people that aren't your customers yet. And then when they become your customers, they go into a different cadence. Yeah. Well, actually, you're delivering that superior service or that front of mind experience to your customers, which links back to your successful and safe growth. So, it's a really nice story, Sascha.
Yeah, and I think we can all in our private lives relate to being the difference between being an existing customer and a new customer. And the red carpet appears to be rolled up and disappear, doesn't it? Once you move in, which is then you start to feel neglected, and guess what? That prompts you to go somewhere else. Sascha, you've got a big organisation, so if I recall correctly, and correct me if these numbers are wrong, you've got about 1,200 salespeople selling to 161,000 customers in 180 countries with a direct presence in 45 countries. That's a pretty impressive set of metrics. How on earth do you create kind of joined up, consistent communication with such a large number of all customers and also such a diverse group?
Yeah, I would even bump up that number slightly. So customer facing, it's roughly 2,000 people.
Okay.
Yeah, when we include also the service center in those numbers there. I think what you just mentioned is a hot topic, right? It's a quite contentious one, heavily discussed. Probably at the end of the tunnel, there is kind of the holy grail of being able to shift your customers from a kind of push to a pull situation, right? When it comes to demand and joining up the communication. And the way we are tackling that is to really work also on the basics together with our team and truly understanding and mapping out the customer needs that are underlying, and particularly production process optimization, world-class manufacturing, as you will, and then thinking about kind of brackets and global teams where we as IFM can provide hard and tangible facts and Lego pieces to, offer solutions. And when you do that, you draw kind of dotted lines, right, between individual components and manage to be a little bit more clearer, more concise, and that could then, or it feeds into our marketing and communications then on the one hand side, but also even then to the solution selling space that we really can say, for example, we pay into the topic of inventory reduction in your warehouse through solution XYZ based on certain aspects in our certain components in our portfolio.
So we've rather wonderfully gone from millipedes to Lego pieces as well. So loving the analogies. And Richard, I know at Durham Lane you have multi-language capability because you're supporting clients who are selling across different sort of geographies and different areas. And what do you do to ensure for your clients that there's that kind of joined up communication?
Yeah, I'm not going to give you stats because they will seem so insignificant compared to Sascha's and IFM. But yeah, we operate multilingual. I think to be a UK and European focused business, that's really a must. I think there's a lot of value there for our customers as well, because not only can we represent them in different countries, but we can present a one voice back to the customer. So big learning for us was it's not just about having native tongue speakers that are the sales execs doing the prospecting, but you need to have native tongue speaking and understanding coaches and team leaders. So we've worked hard on that. And then we try and bring that all back into a one view from a customer success reporting cadence, whether that's weekly, monthly, and then QBR quarterly reviews. So seems to be working well. We find some areas more and less complicated, and that coaching piece is key, because if you don't understand what someone's saying, you can't coach them. It sounds obvious when I say it out loud, but actually, we learned that the hard way. So that was a good learning point for us on our multilingual journey.
Fantastic. Well, I'm just conscious of time and making sure we don't overstay our welcome with you, Sascha. So thank you very, very much for your those fantastic insights. I mean, the transition to that complete solution piece was fascinating, and I really enjoyed your commentary on that CEB research. Yeah, they might have been doing the research, but it doesn't mean they're there yet, right? So I mean, that's a key skill for modern salespeople, to work out where that salesperson is in that information gathering journey and maybe correct any misinformation, right? Because as any doctor will tell you, Dr. Google does not always diagnose problems correctly. So on behalf of my son, who's a doctor, so hey, I've got this problem. No, you haven't. And right, and that's a gentle persuasion, I think, going forwards. And wonderful, I think, about your ability of your organisation to genuinely get close to its customers. I think will be a real lesson for our listeners to learn from. Richard, closing comments from you, sir?
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it, Simon and Sascha. So thank you as always. A few notes that I made. Successful and safe growth. So the difference maybe between being private and equity backed was interesting. We didn't really have time to talk in that in detail, but we could maybe revisit another time. Selling as a team sport, and I love the phrase "manage the risk of regret," which is another really interesting and probably under thought about sales skill, which is an important between the handoff between sort of sales and customer success, and then finally, I think a big takeaway for anyone listening to our podcast wanting to improve their sales skills is just think about timeliness. Respond rapidly, and people will think you're better. We talked about discovery and all of those other areas. So, yeah, great to have you, Sascha. Thank you so much from Durham Lane and from the Insiders podcast for being our guest.
Been a pleasure. Thanks a lot, gentlemen.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And thank you to everybody for listening into this episode. Please make sure you subscribe to the Insiders podcast and you'll be notified of new episodes which have been released on a regular basis. So thank you very much for listening in, folks.
The Insiders by Durham Lane. Subscribe today to never miss an episode.